Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Banking Show. Satin Creditcare is one of the largest microfinance institutions in the country with a wide geographical reach. Today we have with us HP Singh, Chairman and Managing Director of Satin Creditcare, who is also the promoter of the company. Mr. Singh, welcome to the show and wish you a
Thank you,
very happy
sir.
New Year.
Thank you so much and wishing everyone a happy new year.
The microfinance industry has seen many ups and downs in the last one was the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you think the sector has come out of it, or there are still some pains which are left?
So I think, it was a long haul in terms of the pandemic. So in terms of the collection efficiencies, in terms of GNPA, in terms of economic activity, as well as the income generating capacity of our borrowers getting hurt because of lockdowns, as well as because of the pandemic. I think, this is now clearly out of the woods. I can say that, the pain, whichever has been there in terms of higher GNPAs, in terms of higher provisionings, in terms of loss of income, those all have come back. Now, if you look at the industry as a whole, the disbursement figures have started rising. The collection efficiencies have started getting better. The provisions and write-offs have already been done. So our own sense is that now, if I would say very clearly, yes, microfinance post the pandemic is now, all the pain is over now.
So coming to the bank, Satin's performance in the second quarter, there was a 209 crore restructured loan which was written off. Do you see the numbers still staying elevated in the subsequent quarters?
So that won't happen. As I said, because, post the pandemic, whatever write-offs and provisioning had to be done, a major hit has been taken. So if you look at the last 2 quarters as such, we've had write-offs, we've had, higher provisioning. Now, whatever has happened, the restructured book having started from about 1150 crores down to about, 300 odd crores now is probably that the worst is completely behind us. And that also is, if you look at the advantage and the positive which have happened is that out of that 1151 crores, about 500 crores came back as collections only from the restructured book. Now, which shows that there is a lot of resilience in our borrowers, that once the economic activity comes back, once the income generation starts, they are able to repay their installments. So I think that is now completely over. The write-offs and provisioning which have happened are completely, I think now there will be just the general which happens, in a lending business, that will be there. But whatever was the effect of the pandemic, that is practically gone.
Do you think there is a revival in the credit growth also because Satin loan growth was muted for Satin till the second quarter? Have you seen a revival in loan disbursements?
So let me also address this issue. So for us, in Satin, we had kept this loan growth muted for the last 2 years also because of the pandemic, because we were not very sure when the lockdowns happen, when the lockdowns open up, when does the income generating activity, starts taking place. There was migration, both reverse, from urban to rural to urban. All that was happening for us. We took a very conscious call that we keep our growth, at a flat level as such, so that we are not able to have more levels of losses, happening because of the growth if it takes place. Now, once that is over now, from the last quarter onwards, we have started disbursing back to the pre-COVID levels. In fact, for us, now, when we are looking at the complete revival of the rural economy, which is our major push wherever it happens, the growth is coming back and it is getting better of the pre-COVID levels also. So our sense is that the last quarter, which probably is always the heaviest quarter, as well as this quarter, I think, we will see signs of growth revival, which probably were muted because of the pandemic.
What is your loan growth target for the current financial year?
For the current financial year, we've kept it at about 15 to 20%. And I think, we are well on our way to probably achieve that. And that will happen, The only thing which probably left us also on a muted growth was, since there were huge write-offs, I think, we did grow. But, since the write-offs were heavy, that growth was probably taken away by the write-offs which have happened. But otherwise, if you take away the write-offs, the growth is happening now across. So that's what 15-20% is what we are looking at growing for this financial year.
It's been 9 months since the RBI has reversed norm for MFI loans were announced. What is your sense on the issue? What is your take on the issue in terms of impact on the business?
So if you look at the guidelines which have come from RBI, I think, these are very positive guidelines, both in terms of the risk-based pricing, which is now enforced. Earlier we used to follow a margin cap. Now, because of the margin cap, because of the pandemic which happened, we were not able to absorb in terms of our losses which were there. Now once we've got the risk-based pricing and the pricing has been freed of that margin cap, today for us, any crisis which occurs, maybe henceforth now, we are well versed to take care of that because of the risk-based pricing which we can do. If the losses are less, we can always reduce the pricing. If the losses are higher, we've got the margin, extra margin, which we can actually get through. So that's a very welcome sign for the microfinance industry. Secondly, I think, what has happened also is of the household income levels. Today, earlier, what we used to actually fund was, a lower amount of money for our borrowers. And today, that threshold limit has gone up till a 3 lakh limit for a household. That also augurs very well for the microfinance borrowers. So today, our ticket size is increasing in the entire industry, and we can actually look at, giving loans out on a higher ticket size as probably more loans. So they are not too over-indebted, but they can still have sufficient amount of credit for them for enhancing their business. So two very welcome signs which have happened. The other, I think, if you look at the overall NBFC as such, the guidelines are probably on the verge where we are comparable to banks. So that is also a welcome sign because of PCR guidelines as well as, risk-based pricing as well as other things, NPA levels, of 91 days, 90 days, to be advised for all the borrowers. So I think, these are very welcome signs at the end to helping out the microfinance industry as a whole.
But the other aspect was also the rejection rate. It was said that the first quarter after the guidelines were announced, rejection rates would go up. Have you experienced a similar thing, and how and the rates have come down subsequently?
So rejection rates are rising, that's for sure. But that also proves one of the points which has been there. The depth of the state level penetration for all states across, that has increased to a large extent. So even if there is a high rejection rate, rejection rates have increased by about 5 to 80%, 10%, depending on the geography's level of penetration, wherever it's been, But overall, if you really look at it, our own sense is that the entire industry, if you look at the universe, which is there for the entire industry, that has grown also threefold from what it was earlier. We're talking about 2.5 lakh or 3 lakh, industry, which is already there. But if I give you the entire universe with the state level of penetration which we have across India, this industry is worth about 10 to 12 lakh crores, which is there. That is what the whole universe is all about. So, that gives us impetus to probably grow in wherever field we probably did. So rejection rates happening, not happening. I think we're getting more quality borrowers.
Right.
Delinquencies being taken care of because of these rejection rates. I think, it augurs well for the portfolio quality as well as in the long run.
What is your rejection rate currently? Is it around 50%?
Yeah, we are close to 50%. Absolutely.
50%. The other aspect is some years back, Satin was looking to apply for a small finance bank license before the on-tap guidelines were announced. But it seems something is holding you back. So what exactly you are bothered about the license to converting into a small finance bank?
See, for us, the question is that, what do we intend to do as an organization? So for us, post the demonetization, I think our first thought was that if we are able to grow both in the field of housing finance as well as MSME, which is our subsidiaries, to move away from the unsecured lending to a certain part of it in secured lending. I think, that is what we wanted to do. Now, post all these, what we've done is our subsidiaries are shaping up very well. So for us, that is the most important leverage which we are looking at in the entire gamut of our entire group as such and the organization. We want to grow our MSME lending business. We want to grow our housing finance business. Now, once these subsidiaries start taking shape, for us, it is very important that we at a certain point of time are able to really monetize these assets of ours in the longer run as such. Till that time, I think, we are very clear that we would like to concentrate on our core business of microfinance, into our subsidiary business of MSME lending as well as housing finance. And we want to concentrate on that. So for us, the thought of entering into the banking sphere as such, I think right now it is on hold just as to grow all these three companies, moving forward.
That is interesting in a sense that the 10 small finance banks which got license, 9 of them or 8 of them were MFIs. And you are one of the largest MFI. You are clearly saying that that's not your priority right now. So I thought that was interesting. And so finally, you talked about the subsidiaries. So the group has been diversifying away from unsecured loans and entered the home loan segment and secured MSME loan. What is the share of the non-microfinance portfolio now, and where do you see it, say, by the end of, say, FY24?
So the whole thought process behind us was that, we've been able to do microfinance business for a very long period of time. And just to give you a genesis of Satin's earlier avatar, we were into the individual lending business in the retail segment, and that too, again, microfinance, to a lower level. So for us, this is something which we know very well. We wanted to try out and build up our capacity in terms of how we are able to look at MSME lending and how we are able to really bring ourselves to look at housing finance. And for us, these last 4 years, when we actually built up these subsidiaries, are terrific experiences which are there. And today we can say for very sure that we are well versed as a team to look at both microfinance, housing, as well as MSME lending. So for us, the experience that we gathered in the last 4 years, we want to build these subsidiaries also to a large extent where it is. Today, it constitutes about 12% of our portfolio. So about 88% is microfinance and about 12% is non-microfinance. We want to build this up that at a certain point of time, we are able to say that, okay, fine, 50% is microfinance and 50% is non-microfinance. Maybe at a certain point of time, maybe let's say about 5 to 6 years from now. But the whole idea was that we have clear category demark of the rural space by doing microfinance lending, by doing MSME lending in the rural space, as well as doing housing finance lending in the rural space. So the whole gamut of lending for priority sector as well as for the bottom of the pyramid happens through these three institutions of ours. And that's what we are looking at in the near go as such.
Mr. Singh, it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very so much for sharing your views with our viewers.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Look forward.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
I am the blue of the limitless sky. I am the inspiration that led success soar high. I will achieve, I will fly high. I am the I in SBI.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.